Righto guys, part 2 of the tender build carries on. We've run into a bit of a snag. Well, I think it's a bit of a snag, but we'll find a workaround. So, looking at these two parts here, that's the rear of the tender and that's the former that puts it all together. I'm running 2 cameras today, so if this one on my chest doesn't sort of work, we'll end up having to come back with this one. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Well, I think it's a bit of an issue because, so both of those, I'll show you over here. So this here has a bit of a flange around the outside of it, which is where your boiler wrapper will attach to once you roll the, not boiler wrapper, your tender wrapper will attach to once you've rolled it. Now the issue is the former that it's supposed to go onto first, with this little ring here which is also a flange kind of deal, is smaller than what the flange is on the back of that. So if we just line that up to the top to make it even, then we go to the side, it's kind of hard to get an angle on that. It's actually, the former is actually slightly lower than the tank end, and at the bottom, I don't know how easy that is to see, it's a lot smaller. Now with the comment Lexi gave yesterday about the prototype, the actual prototype's tanks being flat on the bottom, that doesn't sort of line up with what the sort of model is going to want to do, because we've already done a bit of a roll on that. Right, my camera had gone flat, so I had to start over. So if that was to go on there like that and wrap all the way around to where the two ends meet at the bottom of the former, we still end up, oh that's hard, with a gap. But with those met at the bottom, that does not sit in there at all. So I think what we're going to have to do, and the other issue is with this former, speaking of which, is it's not wide enough to fit how it's supposed to fit. So if we were to put it all on one side to where it would be, there's a big gap on the other side, and that is square. So we'll just sit that on there like that, basically where it needs to be, which is right about there. Then that would drop in behind that like that, and as you can see on one side there's a big gap. So I think what I have to do is scratch build another former with a sheet of brass and a ring to get it at least equal with what that should be, so that we don't end up with a tapered tank. Because that's what would happen if we actually glued that to the former as the former sits now. As the end, that side of the tank would look like that. That being the back of the tank at the rear, and that being up at the oil bunker, it would be tapered along the side there. So that's just not going to look right. So we're going to have to do something. In fact, I'll go grab one of the other tenders that I've got sitting inside so you can see what I'm talking about. It might be a bit easier. Righto, so I'll just try and shoot this bit freehand while I hold the camera. So here we have a J tender from the same kit, and as you can see That tender barrel doesn't have a taper in it. It's completely straight the whole way across. This one is scratch built. So this was built out of some spare castings that I had lying around. The floor is completely scratch built. The bogies were... where did I pick them up from? I think they were spares from my first scratch built tender that I did, that's in bits. So again, the side of the barrel is completely straight. So I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to do what we did here and make our own former for the back of the tender that actually fits. Because I didn't have this problem with this one either. That one went all together perfectly fine. It needs redoing. I mean, the weathering on it's not that great, just from handling, so there's all powders and things which eventually rub off. But yeah, that one should look like that one. And that one. So you can see two different style headlights here, the smaller headlight and the larger headlight. So yeah, this is the first time running into this problem that we have here with this being smaller than that. Righto, so this may or may not be of interest to many of you, but we never go at making our own former for the barrel of the tender because that one's too small. Even into here, there's gaps either side, but the ring is too small for that bit there. So if we were to build that tender wrapper with that former, the tender would actually be tapered inwards towards the oil bunker. So we're going to build our own former. I'm going to use this as a guide. I've got our little bit of rolled wire here. What we're going to do is sit that flush on the flange of the back of the tender here and make a perfect loop, solder it at the join and then stick it straight to that. Righto, so we've got our ring here on the backing plate. So we're going to already put some flux on it. We're going to solder point there, and point there, just to lock it in place, and try not to get too much heat in it that it melts that join. So we've got it pretty even, so it overhangs on the sides and it's level with the top of it. So we've got overhang here, big overhang at the bottom, just like on the back of that ring. That's the bottom down there with the overlap, but this one was too small, so we're going to build one. Pretty close. So we're looking at that ring just sitting on the outside edge of the white metal. So there's enough room just for that thin bit of brass to go even with the very side of the tender. Oh, too far. Right, so we'll strengthen this up now and we'll get some solder in around these overlaps and things so it cannot bend, because it's only soft wire. So we'll start at this end. I'm going to absolutely flood that with solder. That way we get a nice strong joint. Might use the thicker stuff. A bit more flux. So where it overlaps, we've backfilled it with solder, so there's no see-through bits at the back here where the ring is. We'll hit the other side again. Because we don't want any flex in that ring. So we just want to keep building up the inside shoulder of that ring, so there's absolutely no way it can get crushed. Once we get down into the bottom part, it's going to be a bit trickier because the heat's going to be really close to that bottom joint, so we want to hold that as close together as we can. Oh, that's hot on the fingers. That side's done. Introduce a little bit more flux to help cool that down. And I think a little bit more on the bottom there. That got it. And I think that's us. So it's all soldered on the inside. Not too much outflow because we don't want to make that thicker than it needs to be, so we'll tidy that up with the brass brush, maybe even a file, just so that when that goes together we can just drop a bit of solder on the inside between the wrapper and the former, and that'll hold it all in place, and then we can then go ahead and fit it. It also means your compartment for, say, if you wanted to put your decoders and your speakers in your tender, you couldn't actually put your wiring and stuff through a loop, not unless I drill out or cut a hole in the centre. In fact, we might actually do that. Might get a some bigger drill bits, and drill a whole heap of holes and just cut out the centre a little bit, just to create some space for wires and things if needed. So yep, we'll get my file out and we'll just clean that up. So there we have it, just like that. I might try and we might try, see if this will work. Might try and flood that bottom edge with solder without it coming apart. We'll give it a try anyway. Just test fit again, make sure we're spot on, or close enough to being spot on. It'll work. It's not perfect, but it'll work. Nine different ways to skin a cat. Oh, let's get that in shot, shall we? Move that way a little bit. Get that and that out of the way. We might just go up it just a little bit. About there. Alright, so I got carried away and then I forgot to hit record. So we're a little bit further ahead than what we were. So what we've got is we've made our flange, the former, we've cut our hole in the middle of it. So that'll go up in there like so. We'll fix it in place and all the rest of it. We'll backfill the gaps with probably some solder. Actually body filler would probably be better, because at least that way it's sandable. And yeah, so we've got a much better fitment now, and we've got nice parallel sides. So there's no taper in the side of the barrel, it's all flat right the way across. We'll just pop our lid on for a bit. So that there can now be melted and moulded into something else, because it's junk. So yeah, we'll cut them off the sprue, and we'll actually that hole might, no, it will need to go be taken up to a 1mm hole, because it's bigger than 5mm. You can tell that just by looking at it. So I'll get these ladders separated and get this in bits. Drill these little holes out, fit the ladders, so we'll be back. Sometimes with these little ladders they'll actually get a little bit of a sort of a lopsided twist in the runs, so it sort of sits like that. We want it to sit like that, so that they're all horizontal. And you just got to give them a little tweak with the pliers just to get them right. Pull up on one side, pull down on the other side. Oh, too far. Just like that. And clean up the last of the bit of the sprue there. Being very careful not to twist the ladder. So I don't know how well you guys can actually see that. Hang on, let me just try and get a better view on the lens for myself. So yeah, we've just thinned out this lip here because there's a big bit of a bulge coming out off here. So I've just made that nice and flat, so that'll sit nice and flush on the tender barrel. Right, so we need to widen the holes. Right, I need that like that so I can see it myself. So they drop on there like that. Then it's just a matter of looking and making sure you've got an even gap from the bottom to the top alongside the edge of the barrel, so it's completely even. So it's not a sharp point, it's just a nice gentle curve, but the gap stays the same height above the tank. Dob of flux in there. Grab our iron, a little bit of solder, now that that's fixed in place on the inside, we can now do another check to make sure that everything still goes back to the way it was. And everything should sit perfect, just like that. So the solder has flowed through just to the outside. You can just sort of see it there. Hello. I don't know if you guys can see that, right? I'll get that at a better angle for me so I can see. Oh, we're upside down. But if you ask me, that's the ladder we just soldered on, right? That's the other ladder on the other side. To me, there we go. So that's level at the top. To me, that one looks lower than this one. So what we might do is very gently, it might not, the hole, I doubt the holes are in the wrong place because it's an edge. So what we'll do is we'll just grab the top of the ladder and we'll just bend that down and in a little bit. I think it needs just a little bit more. So a little bit of flux. And again, a little bit of solder. And again, we've got a little bit of penetration there. Righto, let's sit it all back together again. Just sit our top plate on there. That needs straightening out as well. So there goes our ladders. And then you've got an edge that you fold up, which goes underneath the walkway there. And then it's got two little legs that come down either side of the ladder, which is designed to basically hold that above the tank. We'll hold that above the tank. So we'll build that bit separately with the hatches and everything on it, and the handrails, because they've got handrails at the back here. In fact, there's little drill marks. I don't know if you guys can see those. It's got little drill marks. You can just see one there and one there, and same on the other side. And then you've got hang on, get this in the right place. And then you've got two drill marks here. They're for your hatches to pop through on top of the checker plate. Tender body will just come off one piece. Make confittis, decorators and things all in there. Paint the tender and then just drop it back in place and just glue it along the bottom of the thing to the top of the tender, or top of the chassis, and away you go. So yeah, that's where we're up to. Little tack of super glue. Make sure that's sitting in the right spot. Yep, nice and flat. My head's in the way, wasn't it? Oh, wrong way. So we'll just sit that up like that for now. Let that glue set, and then I'll do a big bead of epoxy down on the inside, and in the joins on the outside you're going to do a little bit of body filler and then sand that down so it's flat, so you won't actually see those joins, it'll look like one piece. Alright, so we've just mixed up our epoxy. So we're going to run a bead of epoxy down both inside edges. Right, let that do its thing. That 75 kg epoxy is good stuff. It's strong. But yet, you know, it's good because it doesn't set like concrete, so it's got quite a good shock absorbing property to it, so it can handle a knock or a drop, unlike super glue, which will just crack. Super glue is only really used for just tacking corners, and then either like, you know, tacking corners, getting the thing square, fluxing the centre bits, run some solder on it, or doing the epoxy. Righto guys, so here we go. It's just sitting together now, so you guys can sort of get an idea of how it all looks with the ladders on it. So we've got a tender to this stage now, so it's all just sitting together. I think we kind of shot forwards because I forgot to press record, so we have our former in, we have our ladders on, back of the tank just slots in there. So there we have it. So what wasn't recorded is we had some clearance issues in the chassis at the back end here, where the end of the tank sits down, and it was hitting in some of the edges, so we had to take them out with a file to make a bit of space, because we had this side wasn't too bad, so the tank was sitting right down on this side, but on this side here it was sitting up quite a bit. I'll show you. So where that goes on, it was like, I'll get my thumb out of the way if I can, so it was sitting like that. So as you can see, it's pretty flat there, and it comes all the way in. So it goes all the way down, almost all the way down. With a bit of pressure I can get it to sit flat. But it's still hitting somewhere. But I think this has gone long enough now, so we might end the video there, keep it down to about 30-40 minutes, and we'll carry on tomorrow or next session and do the finish off the underside detail with the hooks and chains in the back, some of the pipe work, some of the other castings that have to go in, like the drains and things for the tank and whatnot, and the handbrake for the foot plate and things. So yeah, cheers guys, we'll get back into it.